over. Like I said, it mentioned, keep tuned to Seconds Out. We got Frank and Raheem there already. Raheem and Frank, I should say, bringing you the content and interviews from both the headline shows that feature MVP's card, which features pretty much every female talent you'd want to think of, barring Clarissa Shields. Maybe in future they'll have Clarissa Shields on one of their shows, but headlined by Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano in their trilogy fight. Savannah Marshall features on there, Ellie Scottney, Chantal Cameron, Shadeja Green, and more on that card. And of course, on the Saturday, you have the Ring Magazine show in New York, which has Hamzah Sheeraz versus Edgar Berlanga and Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda on there. Josh, what's your take on these two cards? A feast of boxing action. Will your eyes be on them this weekend?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Taylor Serrano 3 card is a magnificent card, really. The first time we saw an all-female fight card was over here in the UK, obviously at the O2 with Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall, but this completely trumps that. Multiple world title fights, some huge stars on there as well, and it comes at a really important time, I think, for female boxing. It's not doing particularly well, particularly over here in the UK. It's struggling for stars a little bit. It's struggling for big fights. So the fact that MVP and Jake Paul were able to get not just the rematch on Netflix, but some big fights for some British stars as well. Savannah Marshall, Ellie Scottney, Chantal Cameron, all on the card. Great to see them getting a prime spot, and I'm sure there'll be a huge amount of people tuning in on Netflix on Friday evening, early Saturday, as it is here in UK. As far as Shakur Stevenson, Zepeda, Hamzah Sheeraz versus Berlanga goes, two great fights at the top of the bill. The British interest, of course, being Hamzah Sheeraz, who goes in as a slight favourite over Edgar Berlanga. And a very different fight to his last outing against Carlos Adames. Adames was able to impose himself on Sheeraz. He had the movement, he had the head movement as well. Berlanga's not going to be quite the same, in my opinion. The head movement of Berlanga isn't there. He's going to be a bit easier to hit for Sheeraz. And Sheeraz going up in weight, he should be able to carry that power and that reach and that height advantage, should be able to use them. And for me, will get the win, I believe, over Edgar Berlanga. So look, lots to look forward to, as you say, Eamon, and we'll be covering it all in depth here on Seconds Out.
Yeah, quick run through the cards. I think, like I mentioned there, pretty much every single female talent, barring Clarissa Shields, is on that card. Ramla Ali features, Chantal Cameron features against Jessica Mara, which was one of the fights that was supposed to happen on the Matchroom female super lightweight tournament, which ended up not happening because I can't remember the lady's name, but she's now turned her hand into acting and has been in several series and movies, actually. But Chantal Cameron missed out on the opportunity to become undisputed champion at that point against her because of the direction or career switch. Shanika Johnson is on there as well too for Nina Hughes recently. Savannah Marshall, as we mentioned, against Shadeja Green. I think there's a lot left in the Savannah Marshall tank, and she's been chasing Clarissa Shields, whether it be in the ring or in the cage. The cage seems to be cut and shut and not going to be an opportunity anymore. Clarissa doesn't seem to be interested, so I don't think Savannah is. Back in the conventional sense of donning the gloves, might be an opportunity to make that second fight. That is probably the biggest fight within female boxing, barring Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, and that's a fight that probably needs to be made pretty soon to get the interest back into female boxing side. Alicia Baumgartner returns to the ring against Jennifer Miranda. Scottney, as I mentioned, against Yamalith Mercado. And then headlined again by Katie Taylor for Amanda Serrano, which is poor Katie's getting a lot of jabs, isn't she, about headbutts and such. But either way, the first two fights were how best to say to the walls action between the two women, and no doubt the third fight will be the same. Add Paul into the mix, Nikita Bedarian, Eddie Hearn in there, Oscar De La Hoya, all in New York at the same time. I'm sure it's bound to be ingredients for another fun fight week. And I think this Ring Magazine fight week, I think it's a real good card. Real good 50-50s or as close to that in Hamzah Sheeraz versus Edgar Berlanga. Look, a lot of goodwill with Hamzah Sheeraz and a lot of talk about his potential. Now is the time to really fulfill it. Maybe got thrown in into the deep end a little bit too quick against Adames. But for a little bit of experience, might have come out with the victory. You could say a lot of things about that fight, whether it was weight, whether it was a spotlight, whatever it was, whether it was the style. Hamzah Sheeraz has very much been able to deal with and get rid of the styles when a fighter is coming forwards towards you. But when they're a little bit more on the back foot, a little bit more got the skills and the movement in front to evade Hamzah's shots, it becomes a bit more of a tricky affair, as we've seen with fights with Bradley Skeet. And that was sort of evident against Carlos Adames, who can also pop a little bit too. It just wasn't meant to be the moment for Hamzah. But now he stepped up a weight against Edgar Berlanga, who I don't think you can quite say had a similar sort of trajectory as Hamzah Sheeraz, but there are some parallels with Hamzah and Edgar. But these are two bangers who don't look for the step backwards. What Edgar did sort of against Canelo, but you can be forgiven for that one. But they won't look for the step backwards against each other. And they're both looking for routes to a big opportunity. Hamzah's certainly looking for that Canelo fight. The Adames fight would have set him up for that Canelo fight. This Edgar Berlanga fight, I think, sets him up for that Canelo fight off the back of Canelo versus Crawford, and however that shakes out. But he's then beating a former Canelo opponent, and he starts shouting that name. The pitch for Hamzah Sheeraz and Canelo had started to come in the last 6 months or so, and they certainly need a bit of credibility and steam too. And a victory over Edgar Berlanga helps that. And I think what Hamzah does have over Edgar Berlanga is a tighter defense. Hamzah can shell up, take those shots, and then pop back in with one of his. And Edgar might be on the receiving end for one of them, but I think it's going to be real good action type of fight. David Morrell versus Imam Katiev, I think is going to be another real good fight. Katiev was a good one, as was David Morrell recently against Benavidez. Proper good fight. That same with Puello versus Matias, proper 50-50. You just don't know what sort of version of Subriel Matias will turn up, and Puello a good in-ring craftsman. So we'll see how that fight turns out. And then Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. Don't really know where William Zepeda sort of stands in terms of the opponents he's had. Sort of faltered against Tevin Farmer. A lot of people thought that he was lucky to escape with the win against Tevin Farmer the first time round. Certainly put that to bed the second time round. And against Maxley Hughes as well. Stunned Maxley Hughes with a barrage of punches. Can he do the same to Shakur Stevenson? Can he overwhelm him and drown him? Shakur, a higher level operator, an elite level operator, in with someone now who's going to throw a loads of shots at him. So very much a recipe for a real intriguing fight. What we don't want it to be, though, is a Tom and Jerry style fight. That's for sure. That about rounds it up for Seconds Out Live this week. As we do close the show, I want to close the poll and bring you those results. I'll read the comments out before we do so. And here are the closing comments for the show. We have here, phenomenal card. Would also like to see Clarissa Shields fight in the UK again, says Capital Commodities. She's at heavyweight at the moment, but I'm sure she'll drop back down for a big fight with Caroline Dubois at the O2. I wouldn't want to watch Tyson fight again, even if it was in my back garden. Berlanga, too much for Sheeraz, says Fiscal Badgers. If the Hamzah that fought Adames turns up on Saturday, then Berlanga will beat him. So I hope the link up with Andy Lee pay dividends, because Andy Lee is a great trainer. Hamzah will have to absorb 2 or 3 heavy punching from Berlanga, but then he'll pick the American off and get a late stoppage / points win. Here is the close of the poll. We asked you, who do you want to see Tyson Fury fight first in amongst the comeback? He's back, and he wants Anthony Joshua. He wants Alexander Usyk. You want to see him fight Anthony Joshua with 69% of the votes, which is a percentage that Tyson Fury talked about in the scrums this week. Other at 15% ahead of Alexander Usyk. Names there like Joe Parker, potentially. Names there like Moses Atalma, potentially. Daniel Dubois, potentially. Alexander Usyk in third place. The trilogy, the third fight, is in third place. Having seen the 2 fights happen already, hits third place with 14% of your votes. Solb TV says, versus AJ, we don't want Fury versus Usyk again and again. Shakur will run all night. Hamzah versus Canelo, in what world? Nobody is calling for that fight. I think you need to check the steam momentum going up on that fight. That certainly seems to be what matchmakers or people are pulling for. Nobody knows who Hamzah is outside the UK. That's why he's fighting in New York. When Eubank Jr. knocks out Ben and moves up to 168 and fight Hamzah, now that's a fight. Certainly, Canelo is looking for a UK opponent. Hamzah Sheeraz is an option. Eubank Jr. is an option. Berlanga's power is overrated, says Wedding Cocktails UK. And Iggy Pop says, I don't know what that's from. Is it from Fight Club? Maybe? Don't know. What's that other movie where what's his name? He dated Jennifer Aniston. Josh, you're gonna have to help me out here. Who's the fella that dated? Say again.
I'm struggling here as well. I'm struggling as much as you here, Eamon.
I want to get this. It's annoying me. Who's that fella? He was on Friends, but he dated Jennifer Aniston at the time. What's Jennifer Aniston? Let's have a look at former boyfriends. I can't believe I'm searching this on Seconds Out Live. Brad Pitt. So what was that film that Brad Pitt was in where he played as a traveler? Was that Fight Club?
I feel like this is a question for Vinny more than anyone.
Vinny, can you let us know what Brad Pitt's movies where he played Snatch? Is it from Snatch? Snatch, there we go. Snatch, there. Right, we figured that mystery. I think that's about time with our heads fried to close out Seconds Out Live. So as customary, give the co-host the final word, but I'd like to say thank you again for a real thriving number of people in here, and we're gearing up momentum for not only the New York doubleheader but also the undisputed heavyweight. Snatch is coming in now. I needed that call about 5 minutes ago. Snatch already. Thank you.